It's Flames Nation Radio. Ryan and Shane back with you. We were off last week because our dear friend Mark Princey has never had a vacation pretty much since he started producing the hundreds of thousands of things we had him doing. And the chain that kept him chained in our studio broke and he escaped. And thankfully he did lovely things while he was escaped. And now he's back. And now we're back. So Princey, we're glad you got a chance to have a week off because you deserve it, buddy. And for everyone else, we're back too. So you got a week-long reprieve from us. As always, we're delivered to you by DoorDash and also presented by Eau Claire Distillery, the makers of Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. Shane, I feel like we haven't talked in a while.
It's been like 2 weeks.
it's been 2 weeks, and the Calgary Flames have played 7 games. If folks, in the last 14 days, 7 games for the Flames, including the entirety of a 6-game road trip, where the Flames played in warm climates. They were in flip-flops and shorts weather down in Florida. They went to scenic Pennsylvania for a pair of games. They went to Washington, D.C., and then they went down to barbecue country, Raleigh, North Carolina, and then they came home and played Matthew Tkachuk. Shane, I would say it'd be fair to bin the last 7 games of hockey as mixed results. I'll run through the scores very quickly. So they had a 4-1 loss in Tampa Bay, where I thought they played pretty well. They were in the game. They didn't got.
If I recall, it was pretty close the whole time, and then Tampa pulled at the end.
And that's what good teams do. It was a close game where the Flames made too many mistakes. The Florida game, that was just a good hockey game.
It was
back and forth, dramatic, big goals, big swings. 5-4 shootout win. Jonathan Huberdeau scores a shootout goal in his return to South Florida. And the game-winning goal in the shootout was scored by Rasmus Andersson, of all people. Because if you're thinking who's going to score a shootout winner on a team that includes, Michael Backlund, Huberdeau, a few, Adam Ruzicka has scored,
Kadri,
like all the Mangiapane, Dubé, all the guys who have had offensive success at the National Hockey League level and at lower levels too, and in international competitions, whatever. Rasmus Andersson is not the guy I think of, but he made a really good move. He basically, froze the goalie and went around him. And Spencer Knight was like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" So, I mean, it was a good play. So that was a game that they were in the whole time, and they found a way to win. They played against Philadelphia the following game.
Philly was playing their American Hockey League lineup.
Philadelphia, bless their hearts. I would say there's probably a handful of teams that are as beaten up as Philadelphia. Anaheim is one of them. Maybe Arizona. There's a lot of teams that you look at the names on the injured list and you just sort of wince. You go, ooh.
Yeah, that game they were missing very easily. I think it was 7 forwards, and we're not even talking about Ryan Ellis because he's out for the year.
They were missing,
and that entire list of people out could have easily made the top 6 for them, like a top 6. So I was like, my mentality going into that was a must win. You can't lose that game.
And it was a game the Flames should have won, and it was probably closer than it needed to be because of some defensive miscues, some puck handling miscues in their own end. But they won 5-2 off a pair of empty net goals and then 3 non-empty net goals. So they deserve to win. I'm sure the Hockey Viz, I think it's Hockey Viz, with their deserve to win a meter.
No, that's Money Puck.
Moneypuck.com
does the.
There's too many people doing good things.
I've got it all. I pay them all. So
Money Puck's deserve to win a meter was probably fairly close to way over the Flame side. And hockey is, we'll get into this when we talk about the bets of the day. Hockey's weird. Hockey is a game where, if the entire team is playing well but the goalie sucks, you can lose. And if the entire team is playing poorly and the goalie's really good, you have a chance to win. And the Flames played pretty well, and Philly's goalie did his level best to hold them in, and then the Flames found a way to win that game. They then against Pittsburgh, they lost 2-1 in a shootout. It was a game where the Flames threw the Flames put Dan Vildar in, and remember how I mentioned they deserve to win a meter? This is a game where the Flames were kind of on their heels for big stretches of it, and Dan Vladar did Dan Vladar things and kept them in, and the Flames, found a way to not win in the shootout. It was the game the Pittsburgh Penguins were commemorating Evgeny Malkin's 1,000th. So trying to say 1,000th is a hard phrasing to say. 1,000th game in the National Hockey League. He played the 1,000th game the game before. This was game 1,001, and Evgeny Malkin gets a beautiful ceremony. It was really well done. Pittsburgh is very good at ceremonies because they're a classy organization, and then he scored the shootout winner. So I mean, that's the kind of game you're like the start. Yeah, they were
poetic in a sense.
It was the type of game where both goalies played well and kept their team in, and they were waiting for a star player or a difference maker of some kind to be a difference maker. And Evgeny Malkin was the difference maker. So that's the kind of game you lose, you go, fourth game of a road trip, got to win, or you got a point in a tough building against a team that is still pretty damn good. Don't really feel too bad about that.
And then you're 2-1-1 so far on the road trip. It's not like you're bad, and you're like, all right, we get one more, boys, and then things might end all right.
And then so the Pittsburgh game was the first game of basically a 3 games in 3.5 days, because they played that game on a Wednesday night. Then they flew to Washington, D.C. They played an afternoon game, I believe it was 2:00 local, noon Calgary time, against the Washington Capitals. They lost 3-0. It was a game where the Flames they generated a bunch, but Washington was a little bit faster and a little bit better and a little bit fresher. And so the Flames there was no difference makers in that game for the Flames. No one played poorly, but no one played exceptionally well.
No one stood out to get that goal. Like that's why fans are so irate right now, is there's no one that stands up and above in games like that. Like there's
it was the type of game where if you look at the game scores, you look at the stats, and we'll talk about this with the Carolina game also. Might as well lump Carolina in. Another afternoon game the day after. It was a 2:00 start in Calgary time, 4:00 local start. Flames lost 3-2. If you look at the score line for both that game and the Washington game, the consensus would be they were fine. Like, the Flames get their breaks beaten off in either game? No, they were in each game. The other team was a little bit better playing at home, and they had a little bit, the difference between those two games was Carolina and Washington's stars, their difference makers, were difference makers, and the Flames difference makers were fine, but they weren't difference makers.
I give them a bit of a pass on the Carolina game, but because it's two things. One, it's the 6th game of a 6-game road trip. Also, the only one that you played back to back. The two worst games by
Carolina was also playing back to back.
Yeah, Carolina also played a back to back, so it was 2.
And I think Carolina was also playing their 3rd and 4.
Yeah, so that's why I said it's limited flack. I'm like, there is those caveats, but the Carolina has it as well. Only one team has dummied the Flames twice this year so far, to the point of terrible metrics, and that was Carolina. 35-40% possession, 35% of the chances. All other games, Calgary's been in the 45 plus range.
I think if you're the Flames coaching staff, I think you look at that and you go, okay, well, Carolina is real good, so that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But I think these are the types of games where, Daryl Sutter, when we spoke to him after practice on Monday, he mentioned, I asked him about what he thought about the team's performance on a whole in the road trip, and he was generally very positive. And he was just like, there's when you get to the end of a road trip, your execution starts going away because you're just you're working. You're not yeah, we're gonna if you look at I'd say the energy levels and I'm not gonna say engagement, because I think they were engaged in every game, especially that Tampa, it's easy to get up for Tampa because holy cow, it's Tampa, three
back to back
finals,
regardless.
That's a measuring stick game.
One, they're still champ tier, right?
Yeah, you look at Tampa Bay as a team that you think you're gonna have to beat to win a Stanley Cup, so it's easy to get up for that game. I put Florida in the same. In addition to the emotionality of Kachuk, Uyghur, Huberdeau, it's easy to get up for those games. And then you get into you're playing Philadelphia, and there's no real emotional attachment to Philadelphia Flyers. Bless their hearts. And they were just you enter that game as this is a game you got to find a way to win because the Flyers aren't very good. And then you play Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has the extra emotionality of the Malkin thing, which probably gave them a bit more energy. They were pretty good early in the game, but then the Flames hung in there. but for Washington, not a lot of emotionality in that game, especially fifth game of a road trip. Same with Carolina, where, you have some guys, I think the sting has come out a bit for Hanifin and Anderson, or Hanifin and Lindholm going back to Carolina. I don't think they don't have quite we want to show you you're dumb for trading us thing as it was early.
It's not Lindholm doing this after the game anymore, right? Like it's he's a Flame now. It's
game 6 of a road trip, and they were the right guys were in the right places doing the right things. They just didn't have that extra little bit in the tank.
Didn't have that extra goal. Just not enough work or whatever. Like it just didn't work out that they find the extra goal. Like their shooting percentage has been a little low. I still think there's going to be a reckoning. That kind of happened with Sergei Bobrovsky and the last game we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the Tuesday night game, the Calgary Flames hosted the Florida Panthers and won 6-2. The Flames scored 4 goals at even strength, 1 on the penalty kill, 1 on the power play. They outscored they outscored Florida in every game situation, and they got a lead 3:05 in and led by 1 or more goals for 55 minutes or 58 minutes of the game or 56 minutes of the game, something like that. Like
it was 4-2 for 55 minutes, and then very clearly the Florida Panthers just felt like they were like, okay, like they're like nothing.
They were again.
And they fell asleep. And
scheduled win
2-on-1 City. It was 2-on-1 City. They were in Edmonton the night before, right?
They I believe Florida. I talked to some folks who work for the Panthers. I think it was like their third game in 4 nights with travel. This is the beginning of a road trip. They don't have Sasha Barkov due to an illness. They're playing a back-to-back after the wheels fell off of them late in the game against Edmonton, where they found a way to lose to Edmonton in overtime.
Yeah, they were up early.
Spoiler. Yeah. If you let Connor McDavid do Connor McDavid things, you'll probably lose the hockey game. But it's also
we know.
Yeah, it's also poor. Imagine Matthew Tkachuk probably had flashbacks the game 7 or the game 5 overtime, didn't But yeah, it's that'll happen. But the Panthers looked not too sharp early. The Flames capitalized. The Panthers had a bit of a push to try to get back into it. The Flames kept scoring that next goal to keep them from getting back into it. And then in the third period, there was, a nice pass from Weegar to Toffoli to Spring Huberdeau for a breakaway that they didn't score on. But then Huberdeau got the puck
work
back.
From Jonathan Huberdeau after he got stopped. He never quit on the puck.
It was essentially a 1-on-2.
Yeah, it was 1-on-2 for the puck. He digs it out, and then instead of going to the guy that's right there and is covered, he sees Toffoli coming in from the top and just puts it into empty space. He just puts it in an area where there's nobody and lets walk in. And
I don't know if he intended to put it. I don't know if he intended for it to be a stick-to-stick pass, but he even if you didn't get everything you could on that pass, it was a little bit soft. You got it in the right areas.
And it's a prime scoring. Like that's where Lindholm scored 20 of his 40 last year. Like that's the spot.
That's where a lot of guys who score a lot of goals do their business in between the hash marks.
Especially because the goalies can't cheat off the post when the puck goes from behind the net. Like they've got to hug their post, so you're not getting a crap goal banked in. It just leaves a lot of extra space on the far side of the net. So to fully be able to pick that up as a right-hand shot,
as a righty, you can either go short side and look for some daylight, and sometimes there's daylight and sometimes there's not, or you can try to go far.
Special, but Foley went far out, and heck, that was good. That was when you could click the check box, and you're like, all right, they're gonna escape this. Should be okay.
Yeah, so it was, they
still have more of a shooting percentage reckoning coming. Like
I think so.
There's the average is 8-11, and their Huberdeau's on ice shooting percentage was only like 5.5 when I checked before the Florida game. So he's got a huge reckoning coming. Like there's more offense coming. It's the law of averages. It'll happen, and that's like a little bit of a losing skid. Like they're above 500 still. I'm not worried. I'm not.
And over the past 7 games, they're 3-3-1. If you look at the games they won, they deserve to win those games. If you look at the games they lost, they probably could have gotten a better outcome in all 4 of the games they lost. They're all very close. And if you look at the why they lose a meter, I mean, Tampa, good team. Flames just sort of made mistakes at poor times, but generally played well. Washington, Washington and Carolina, I think, are both basically versions of the same game where they just did not have a lot left in the tank, and they needed one or two guys to be difference makers outside of Dan Vladar, and it didn't really happen for them.
And let's just, I'm going to put this month into perspective for fans as well. The games Calgary lost on road were to perennial playoff performer Boston, previous two-time Stanley Cup champ Tampa, the Crosby-Malkin combo of Pittsburgh, the Alexander Ovechkin in Washington, and Carolina, who we just talked about as being a top contender. They lost 5 games against surefire playoff teams that have been playoff teams for years. Like, it's not like they're out here losing to Arizona.
And they won
Chicago.
Both games against a pretty good Florida team. So
just look at how difficult their schedule's been. Like they ended up beating Winnipeg. Winnipeg's might end up winning their division. Like, they're playing really well under Bowness. They just thwomped the Colorado Avalanche. The only real game that I look at and I'm like, okay, you should have done better is like the Nashville game. But ever since then, like, it's never been truly terrible at all. They've always found a way to rise up and play a decent amount of hockey or come back, other than when Carolina's dummying them. But they haven't lost a game they should lose. They're not losing to the bottom end teams. They haven't played them yet. All these other teams,
they haven't played a lot of Western Conference teams at all this year.
And even then, the Western Conference teams they're playing are good Western Conference teams. They played the Colorados, the Edmontons, the LAs, Vegas. Like they haven't played the lower half of the league yet, and they're above 500. So, like, I just want to make sure everyone knows that they're 10-9-3, right?
Yep. Well, yeah. Let's dive into the next segment, player spotlight, and I think this is one that we'll have some fun with. So let's talk about Milan Lucic. Milan Lucic, he is one of the older members of the Flames. He's on the final year of a deal that pays him $6 million against the salary cap. $750,000 of that is covered by friends to the north, the Edmonton Oilers. So he carries a $5.25 million cap hit for the Flames. Milan Lucic is a left wing. He plays on the Flames' fourth line. He used to be on the power play on the second unit. He's been rotated off. The Flames power play right now is Ruzicka, Mangiapane, Backlund, and usually they have either two of the following 3 defensemen. It's some combination of Zadorov, Stone, and Noah Hannafin. At the point, they do a traditional 3 forward, 2 defenseman second unit because, I don't know, they feel like they should. And
I like Daryl's always done that, though. Daryl's always done that with the with the lead, especially.
I would argue, I don't know if they have the forward personnel to do a 4 forward, 1 defenseman second unit and then have a good bump up unit for the shift afterwards. So Lucic, he's not playing on the power play anymore. He might be back in the power play at some point, but he started the season on the second unit. He is no longer in the second unit. Part of it was, I think, the second unit just wasn't producing a lot to start the year. The first unit was carrying the mail, and the second unit was doing some good things but not scoring, and so they shuffled it up. And especially with Adam Ruzicka, getting on a bit of an offensive heater, it makes sense to give him more puck touches. And because you only have so many spots for left shot guys, someone had to go. So it was Lucic was basically the guy that was the odd man out. Milan Lucic, he had a really good October. Pat and I on Flames Talk had a few discussions. I think right around actually here, this will show you how fan sentiment has changed over the last 5 to 6 weeks. When Dan Vladar signed his 2-year contract extension, Pat and I had a lengthy conversation on Flames Talk, and we discussed, my conclusion both on Twitter and on radio was, well, I guess Brad Treliving's done his work for the offseason already. Like the big pieces of work to do for the 2023 offseason was essentially just, oh, well, what are they going to do with Dan Vladar? And the answer was they want to keep Dan Vladar, so they re-signed him. And my conclusion was, well, I guess they're done then. And people jumped into my mentions. People jumped into the text line on Fan 960 going, whoa, Ryan, what about Milan Lucic? And at that point, it was not a controversial statement to say maybe the Flames should keep Milan Lucic. And at this point, I'm not. Here's where I am on Milan Lucic. I'll do my rant first, Shannon, then you can do yours. I am not ready to conclude that Milan Lucic is done and dusted, washed up, or whatever. I still think he plays with a lot of energy when he's on his game. He's the most noticeable and potentially impactful physical presence they have, because I don't think you want Nikita Zadorov being your cop, for lack of a better term. And Milan Lucic, when he's on his game, he has that vision. He can distribute the puck really well. He has that shot when he gets opportunities to get that shot off. He can put it, on a dime. He had the, what he called the power five, where he just sort of, blasted guys 5-hole and scored a bunch of goals in close. And he has the kind of frame where if you're looking at the heat maps on various websites, Natural Stat Tricks are site of choice. We love you, Natural Stat Trick. Please give your money to their Patreon if you have the means to do so. But if you look at the heat maps, the Flames, one of the challenges they have, they're a great shot volume team. They got shots all over the place. One of the areas where it's tough for them to get a lot of shots is the home plate area, especially right around the crease, because the so-called high rent district, because it's tough to get in there. You know who can get in there really easily, and he's tough to move? Milan Lucic. So I think Milan Lucic, when he's on his game, can be really valuable. But there's a lot of mileage on him, and he's older. Those are basically the same point, but I feel like I need to say them differently, because a lot of mileage just means that he's the style of play he has. He crashes, he bangs, he's like a wrecking ball. I can't imagine being his size and getting your legs going as easy on any of your joints. I know it's not easy on mine, and I'm just out of shape. So I mean, has Milan Lucic's performance dipped recently? I don't think you can debate that it hasn't. Is he bad enough to say, okay, move over, Kevin Rooney, you have a new roommate in the press box full time? I don't think so. I still think, based on who he is, what he means to the club on and off the ice, and the various things that he can bring to the table, I don't think you need to throw in the towel and be like, we're done with Milan Lucic. But I'm also not entirely sure he needs to be an everyday player right now. What do you think, Shane?
I think a lot of people love to criticize him, and it's a polarizing thing. Contract versus time usage, of course. It's age-old adage. He's also 34, I believe. But everyone just says he's not playing good, and no one ever points any specifics out. And so I'm going to point one specific out that I've noticed he's had trouble doing, and it's getting the possession of the puck on the forecheck. He used to get in, crash bang, and then throw the puck up the boards for either the winger, and if the winger was pressured, he'd let it go back to the defenseman, and they'd establish possession. And that's part of one of the reasons why Brett Ritchie's possession numbers are also so good, because both of those guys were playing the same thing. That's not working this year. Teams know what they're going to do. There's no surprise element. There's no Johnny Gaudreau carrying the puck in anymore to make the defenseman have to, want to pinch up. They've lost a bit of that, and the zone entries aren't as effective on the upper end of the lineup, and it's affecting Milan Lucic and how he plays at the lower end of the lineup. And that's not his fault, but it is a reality of the situation. I'm with you completely. I don't think he needs to be playing every day. I think he's going to be more fresh, especially if you give him one night off back-to-backs. But eventually, tangible production needs to be come in. You can't play 81 straight games and not have a goal scored off your stick in the NHL. You can't. You need, at that point, cycle in, take a day off. Just not because we don't like you, just because you're a veteran and you've earned it, and you're not catching Phil Kessel's Ironman streak. So what's the problem with the day off?
And I would argue, like we've talked about this. I've talked about this with Pat on Flames Talk. I've talked with you about this in this space. The purpose of the 82 game regular season for the Calgary Flames is, 1, to qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and 2, to make sure they have the team playing their goddamn best in that last 2-week period leading into the Stanley Cup playoffs, so they can hit the ground running. Like, do you want them to be battle ready and battle tested? I think Milan Lucic is going to be an important part of the team when they make the playoffs. And I think he's the type of guy that in a 7-game series, you're going to need him. He might not play all 7 games. He might only be the guy you bring in. You're like, oh, so-and-so is banged up. We're going to throw in Lucic on the 4th line, and he'll just wreck some guys up for 10 minutes. And then he'll go back out when the other guy's ready. I think he might be, at some, but if he plays and he's able to perform well at the things the club wants him to do, I think you can keep him in the lineup more often than not, but I think he's a guy that, in order for him to maximize effectiveness, I think having him be a guy that at some point moves in and out of the lineup is something they need to look at some point.
Before we move on that, I'm just going to throw some metrics out. I'm on Evolving Hockey right now, looking at the Flames team so far.
Shout out to the Twins.
Love the Twins, baby. Expected goals ratio of players that have played 10 or more games. Very clearly the bottom player, Milan Lucic at 43.66%. Next highest is Brett Ritchie, 45.63, and then it's the Hannafin Anderson pairing at 47. So in this range, because it's a conglomeration of all the games smashed together, being 6% below replacement level is terrible.
Yeah,
that's expected goals. A lot of people don't like expected goals, so let's refer to actual goals. Lowest on the team have played 10 games or more. It's Milan Lucic at 37.09%. So both in the creation of quality of opportunities and the actual finishing off of opportunities.
And the percentage difference is basically that's the luck factor.
46 and 47 still acceptable. That's going to happen. You're going to play good teams. That doesn't mean you should be out of the league. 43 and 37% of the goal share when you're on the ice. That's like if that were a kid, he'd be in the minors. If that were a kid,
some of that is the goaltending, because the goaltending has been great, but just
his on ice save percentage is only 88.88, which is also
not very good. But their shooting percentage is also not particularly great either.
Lucic is 6.39, and like I said, the average is 8 to 11. That's the range. So
when he's there, as you mentioned, we were talking about the recent results, they're due for a shooting percentage heater. And I think that's going to be something that impacts everyone, including I think here's where I'm at. So if you look at the 4-man group who form the sort of the fourth line crew, Kevin Rooney was easily the guy who stood out as not fitting.
He needed to run the middle of the ice and run the play up and down, and he wasn't doing it to the standard that you needed to do it. Especially when you roll your lines. And when you're not line matching, it's very important.
If you're looking at how the fourth line, the 4-man fourth line crew goes, Trevor Lewis can play center, he can play wing, and he's on your penalty kill. And when he's on the penalty kill, they perform fairly well. So you can't take Trevor Lewis out, nor do I think you'd really want to.
He's been fine.
Brett Ritchie just finds ways to score goals. He scored a surprisingly nice goal against Florida, one that Sergei Bobrovsky definitely wants back. But it was a workmanlike goal. It was a fourth line goal where he
put it on that, man.
He recovered a puck that was shot wide, and then he just out battled Gustav Forsling to get a shot on net. So that's the kind of thing where you're like, man, your fourth line made them work their asses off and scored a goal. And Ritchie has been the most consistent top 6 player even to get to those areas and score those types of goals. So you don't want to do anything with Ritchie. So those two guys are basically cemented in. Kevin Rooney, we already mentioned, we'll litigate the Kevin Rooney contract later, but the gist of it is just Kevin Rooney just hasn't clicked. Maybe he will later. He's played in a lot of different systems, and he's definitely a smart guy. He's a good hockey player, but plenty of good hockey players just don't click with teams right away. We saw one named Jonathan Huberdeau.
I just think of Ryan Carpenter last year. Right? We brought in a fourth line guy who had tremendous metrics and was supposed to be a defensive thing, and he never even found the way into the lineup. Coaching the way he played. So
sometimes things just don't work. How many times have Shane, before you and I met our respective partners, how many times did you go on a date and you're like, that person is perfectly nice, we didn't really click? There's plenty of, it's just one of those things. Human chemistry, both in hockey and in non-hockey parts of our lives, it's just a thing that happens, and it's nobody's fault. And that's why if you were a little bit nervous, you heard the Flames sign Kevin Rooney for 2 years, and you're like, 2 years? I've never heard of this guy. One, there's an Eastern Conference. Please watch some games. The games are usually pretty good, and they're on early. Two, Kevin Rooney was a depth player for a couple Eastern Conference teams, and he's pretty decent at it. And I could totally see in a vacuum, if they kept the entirety of the rest of that hockey club together, that you go, I'm going to target Kevin Rooney because he's a good center. That didn't work out
on road trips. The other thing on road trips is we don't get if a team wants to line match against the fourth line, they can. right? They don't get that at home, and you can get them away from them a little bit, which they don't like to do. They like to use all four lines as the phrasing they've used, but fourth line has not been up to par as a unit collectively in terms of defensive coverage. So to the credit of the coaches, they have limited their ice time the last 3 games.
I think some of that is also, if you look at the way the Flames use their lines, traditionally, Anderson and Hannafin face the top of opposition, and they'll play with the top six. Usually the first line, a little bit of the second line. The second pairing, which is recently been more of Zadorov. Actually, it's been
Zadorov,
Tanev and Uyghur more recently, since Tanev came back. Tanev and Uyghur, they get sort of the more defensive situations, and they play with, a bit more of the second and third line. And then the fourth line is usually on with the third pairing. And the third pairing, until Stone came back from his injury and the lines and the pairings sort of normalized a bit, until they got all their aces back, the third pairing was a mess. And then so like you had DeSimone and Gilbert and Connor Mackey, and they're all playing with whoever the hell is healthy. And then that sort of turned into, and then
they're stapled with Tanev, because at that point
they're stapled with Tanev, and then they're never playing because the Flames, they don't want to. You don't want to throw poor Nick DeSimone to the Wolves in his first game. So they weren't using the sixth guy a lot. So it's basically a 5-man defensive rotation. So if you're the fourth line, you're playing not a lot. You're playing infrequently. And you're playing with a bunch of different guys, and there's no continuity. I get it. Like, it's hard to develop a 5-man unit with any chemistry if 1 to 2 of the 5 men are just sort of rotating around. I love this hand movement. I'm going to use this forever because it's super creepy. But yeah, it's just one of the things. So I don't think Milan Lucic need to be put in an ice flow or sent to a retirement home. I still think there's a possibility they keep him. B, he bounces back, and C, he's around next year at a much cheaper contract.
Well, I was gonna say, number one thing is we've got to start getting the bottom guys' contract values correctly. Now, it's no one's fault for signing. Like, if someone offered me $1.3 million a year, I would sign that.
If you
right, it's not Kevin Rooney's fault they offered that to him. It's his agent's fault he got it for him. Right, like, no fault to you.
Oh no, it's no one's fault. It's just
but like, look at the market value of a player that's worth that much. It's not 1.3. Like, I am sorry, it's the same thing as Goodbranson the year before. Now, Goodbranson worked out. He should have never been paid $2 million. He was the last on the line. It worked out. And then he got paid.
I'll defend the organization somewhat by just saying that different. Like, if you look at what they gave up to get Travis Hamonic, for an example, there are things that are non-offensive that they value, and if they think they don't have them, they are willing to spend money or picks or whatever to get those things. Brian Carpenter was an example of that. Goodbranson, Zadorov, they gave up a 3rd-round pick to get Zadorov, and up until he went on a bit of offensive heater this season, you could argue that Nikita Zadorov at 3.75 was a bit steep for what he was. He's gotten better.
It always was. But too much for the third line.
If you don't think you have something, you might be willing to overpay to get more of it. And I get it. I don't. That's not how I would spend the money, but I get it.
I'm critical of it. I think that those two in back-to-back years, that's a pretty big red X for me. Now, I'm not. There's more green check marks in Brad's book infinitely than there are red X's. And I think it's worth pointing out.
Yeah, I think it's worth later on. We'll get in later on this season. We'll get into sort of more fulsome discussions about the things that they were doing and why they were doing them and how they could have done it differently. But I'll just say this on Lucic. I think rotating him out from time to time to keep him fresh and keep him young and fresh, as the phrasing goes, is a good idea. I think if you're looking for faces to go in from the farm or from elsewhere at short notice at low cap hits, I really like Walker Duehr. Walker Duehr as a guy in small bites. He's a right shot. He can play the right wing. You can move guys around on the wings. And he's got speed. He's been on a bit of an offensive heater, but I don't know if Walker Door has NHL hands, but he's a great skater. He has
I
NHL
want
speed. He has good awareness. I'd also put Redeems Zahorna in that spot. If you're thinking you want a lefty to potentially tandem with Lucic for some period of time, I think Zahorna, he can play center, he can play the wing. We saw him in preseason. He was fine. And if the idea is that Lucic has been the least fine of that fine fourth line group, I think giving a guy an opportunity who, guys who don't have a lot of offensive upside but can play those low leverage minutes and give you value, I think Duran Zahorna could be possibilities.
I think I'm not against it. I don't like putting skilled players on the fourth line, but I mean, part of the problem is goals. We need to find more goals. And regardless of the shooting percentage heater, we lost a lot of goals at the top end of our lineup that the bottom end of the lineup hasn't been able to replicate or fill in or replace. We lost a lot of goals from last year, which is the reason we made the playoffs.
Or prevent.
Or prevent, yes. Well, the defense is another thing. We'll get into that another week. There's a pairing that's been not good. But I have no reason. Like, Jacob Pelche should get a shot. He's defensive enough. He can easily play on the fourth line role. They did it to Andrew Mangiapane. He had a center in Derek Ryan.
Here's what I'm saying to that. Here's what I'm saying for that.
I'm not against it.
If you're calling up a Pelche or a Zari or a Phillips, or eventually
never go back down,
or eventually a Coronado, if they're coming in, they're not coming out, and that should be the goal. So, I don't think they're there yet.
I like that when the affiliate's in a different city. I agree. The affiliate's in the same city. You can call them up in a homestand, look at them. There's no travel expense. You can have them get a taste of the NHL midseason action, something that can help them, and then send them back down. There's no real cost or rhyme or reason, and you can communicate that to the player.
You do that if there's an injury. You do that, like, say there's injury in the top nine, like let's say Blake Coleman breaks his thumb. Please don't do that, Blake Coleman. You're very good at hockey. Let's just say Blake Coleman breaks his thumb and you're like, okay, we got like 2 weeks. You need to fill a void. I think you can bring in one of those guys for 2 weeks and say, okay, here's your parameters. Here's your gig. Go do it. The thing that they did with Mangiapane is, they didn't have guys who owned those spots. Like Mangiapane in 1819, Dubé in 1920, other guys at different points, especially defensemen, they sort of had sort of a swirling mass of guys. They didn't have a set group that they had gotten out and gone and sort of had clear roles for. And so it was kind of easy to say, Andrew Mangiapane, cool, you're on the fourth line, you're playing with Garnet Hathaway, you're playing with Derek Ryan. Here's how you want you to play, go do it. Very clear parameters, and if you meet those parameters, you're staying forever. And it worked, that they stayed forever. Unless you have a spot that you can give to someone permanently, I don't like the idea of bringing up someone just to bring them up. If you're bringing someone up, it's going to be for a specific purpose.
And that's why to bring them up. It's to spark some offense. But
and that's like if the idea is that Milan Lucic is the weakest link in the forward group and he's the easiest guy they took him off the power play because he was the easiest guy to take off the power play. If he's the easiest guy to take out for a spell, a game or two here or there, like say, like this week they're playing, they're at a 5-game homestand. They just started the 5-game homestand. If the idea is, okay, 2 of those games, Lucic ain't playing, who do you have on the farm who can come in for 2 of 5 and give you value? I'd say Durans or Horna are the guys. Maybe Schwint, because Schwint has done that in the past. I think, again, Schwint might be in the category because of how well he's playing in the A and his age. He might be one of those guys who go, there's probably still some developmental upside there. You might not want to yo-yo him too much. But if you're any of the skill guys, I think you want to be able to put them with skill guys. And I don't think they have the ability to do that on the fourth line.
The amount they've mixed their lines up, you can easily mix and match. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating that the one thing that you said that I completely disagree with is designated spots. No spot in the NHL should ever be designated. It is the top league in the planet. I don't care about
you personally on this podcast have said the thing you like about Daryl Sutter is that he doesn't roll 4 lines. He uses the 4 lines in very specific ways. Granted, that was last year with a different group. If Daryl's going to make that distinction, we need to make that distinction too. So
Yeah, he does use them. He does use them, and they uses them in different ways, which is why I suggested Pelche, not Phillips, because I don't think Matt Phillips can go on a fourth line and do that job.
I don't know if Pelche can either. I'm pretty sure Dewar can do it reasonably well.
No one will ever know until he actually gets a shot. You can say all you want about all the AHL scouting until you actually give him a chance in an NHL lineup anywhere. You're not going to have an actual gauge of where he's going to be.
I'll say this.
Period.
Let's just call a spade here. The acquisition cost for Zohorna and for Walker Duehr was nothing. They paid the waiver fee for redeem Zohorna. Yeah. So they scouted Duehr, they recruited Duehr, they really like Duehr. But if Duehr doesn't work out, it's not like they're going to be like, oh no, we got to revamp everything, because he's a free player. Same with Zohorna. You got him off waivers. You go, oh, okay, doesn't work, send down. Like, they could have lost him on waivers. That was the risk they played, and it worked out, and they still have him. But so if the idea is you want to try out something and you're like, what's the lowest risk thing you could do? Duehr and Zohorna. If they work, great, they work. If they don't work, oh, you still got Lucic, you still got all your guys.
And they've got 30 days in the roster before you can send them down.
I would say the risk of throwing Pelche into a less favorable role, like the fourth line is a lesser impact role. It can be, because of how the team has been constructed. The 2019 fourth line was very impactful because they were awesome and they earned more ice time than a lot of fourth lines could. It was probably the best fourth line the Flames have had in the last 10, 12 years. So for an organization that's been risk averse because they think they can win a championship and because they want to have these guys waiting in their wings to be, like, say, like Pat and I on Tuesday on Flames Talk had a long conversation about contracts. We talked about in 2 years they have two big contracts coming up. They have Noah Hannafin, who's going to need a big raise. Probably he's going to get something like, I don't know,
something like Uyghur.
He'll get close to, he'll get Uyghur-esque money, and then Elias Lindholm will be making probably north of 8. Because
I look at what Rupe Hintz just got. Like, look
what
Rupe Hintz just got,
and I think you're looking at 8 by 8.
That's probably
so
he's not going to get 40 again this year.
If you're the Calgary Flames, your entire ongoing success, given the structure of the team and given the age of your key players and given the cap situation that they put themselves in, but the cap situation that they are in, you're almost relying on your ability to turn Connor Zary and probably Cole Schwindt, possibly Phillips if he's still around. I hope he's still around because he's very good.
He's still an RFA, so we can still have him next year.
Oh, he'll be group 6.
Oh, no, not enough games.
Jacob Pelche, especially if you're looking for guys who can 200-foot guys, Pelche is your guy. If you want guys you can play higher up the rotation and create a bit more offense, there's a Zary. Schwindt is sort of a good utility guy. That's how he projects. He feels both he and I would say Pelche projects as sort of a Frolicki winger. I think because he can play center, Schwindt is sort of more of your Paul Byron-y utility guy who can he can be your filler guy and play at a high level potentially. But the success of the Flames beyond this season, and especially beyond 2 seasons from now when they have to make some big financial commitments to some key players, you need your ongoing success in a cap system is incumbent on your ability to draft guys, develop guys, and slide them into your roster at times when you need them to, and figure out ways to get value from inexpensive players. And we saw this during the bubble year where they went down sort of the league minimum bargain bin and tried guys out. Josh Levo didn't really fit. A bunch of guys didn't really fit. Dominic Simone didn't really fit. And the idea is you use your Levos and your Simones and your Louis Domingues because you don't really have you haven't developed your guys yet. You're not going to throw
prospect pool.
You're not going to throw, if you think you win a championship, it's really difficult to throw a 20-year-old kid in there. It really worked with Theo Fleury in 88 and 9 because Theo Fleury was Theo Fleury was the right guy with the right playing style, and he found the right teammates. And granted, the 1980s were a lot more different. It was sort of, it's the run and gun era. It was, you had, no guys weren't built like goddamn linebackers playing in the NHL. Like you could have a 5'6" guy, and granted, he played with Mark Hunter and Tim Hunter at times. No relation, but he was playing with guys that had some beef, but it could also play a smart 200-foot game. So it gave Fleury the ability to do that within the confines of how the game is played at that point. And also at that point, they didn't really call a lot of weird penalties, so Fleury could two-head a guy and get away with it often, and he did.
Back in the 90s.
And he did. A lot of guys, you can't do the game has changed, so you can't really do that right now. But this is my long point. My long point is the Flames probably don't feel, and I don't want to speak for the organization. I'm just speaking based on the conversation I've had. If you're the Flames, you're probably feeling something like this. If you try out Zahorna or Dor or one of those lower level guys, like one of your checkers from the AHL in the NHL, and it works, great. You got somebody you can bring up for the playoffs and you can rotate it in, and you're going to probably need them in the playoffs. But you probably don't want to be, let's just try things out with your 3 or 4 best prospects. We'll probably get into this later as we get closer to the spring and Coronado watch heats up. But Matt Coronado is the type of player that you want to figure out a way to get him to be Matt Coronado at the NHL level as soon as you can, because he can score goals and he'll be on an entry level contract
that nobody on that team has other than Lindholm.
Yeah, he's got maybe Toffoli. Toffoli has a good shot too, but in terms of right shot forwards who can play center and wing, who can get in there. And the only question mark I had for Coronado is, okay, he's got some beefy, he's got a beefy lower body. He's sort of built kind of squat. So he's 5'10", but he doesn't play 5'10". He plays a little bit bigger than that. So, and he can play center, so you don't really need to necessarily worry about his two-way play. And, he's been playing against grown-ass men to a certain extent in a low-scoring conference. So he's put up good numbers in the context of where he's playing. But for him, for Pelche, for Zary, for a couple other guys, you don't want to fuck around with their development, if you pardon my French. You want to say, here's our plan. And this has probably been communicated to them. They've probably sat down with the guys and say, this is our plan. This is how it looks. This is where we want you to be at point X, Y, and Z to get you into the NHL and to keep you in the NHL. And I think if you look at how the Flames did it with Rasmus Andersson, I think that's the best way. Where Andersson, the first few times he came up as sort of an injury replacement. Somebody wasn't playing well. Somebody was hurt. Somebody was this. They had very clear confines for, hey, Rasmus, you're here for this period of time, and here's what you want you to do. And then at the end of that period, it's easy to evaluate. If the idea is, that, the team needs a spark, the team's not playing well, and you bring up the kid, you really need to bring them up within a really specific confines. Like, that's why I'm saying, what success looks like for Dor or Zahorna as an understudy to Lucic is one thing. But if you go to, let's just say you do bring up Matthew Phillips and the shooting percentage heater doesn't happen yet. Let's say you go 3 weeks without the shooting percentage heater. Then what?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you need something to spark the shooting percentage here. No, here's the thing. This would be the time to do it. And
a homestand. Yeah.
Well, no, not just that, but I talked about the difficult schedule they just went through in November. Sorry, December sees them play 10 of 15 games against non-playoff teams. And significantly non-playoff teams. I'm not counting bubble teams like St. Louis. I count St. Louis as good, and Minnesota still is good. I'm talking Montreal, Vancouver, San Jose, Anaheim. There's games, lots of them, 10 of them coming up in December. We got to remember the schedule's been so difficult so far, and I always tend to forget that a little bit, but. Yeah, I'm just embarrassed. It's been 5 years since they graduated a prospect they drafted. It's starting to get a little embarrassing. And I get we have plans and this and that.
Who are they supposed to have graduated?
Well, I mean, the next one's Ruzicka was the one that's the 5 years old, but
yeah. And Ruzicka was from the 2017 draft class where they also had a Valimaki, and they did a lot of stuff with Valimaki. I don't love how Valimaki could have spent all of last year in the A. But I can see why they wanted to keep him up. I wouldn't have done it, but I can see why they would want to. But if you look at the 2018, they had no first, they had no second, they had no third.
No, the 2018 draft pretty much a write-off.
2018 is a wash.
2019 was bad.
2019, Pelche's in his second year, and Pelche was really freaking good last year. Second year pro.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
I really like Pelche's progression. I think this is the year you dip his toe in and see how he does. And if you have the opportunity to do it, he's the kind of guy that, if you're home and cool, or you're close to it in the last 2 weeks of the season, you reward. It's just, but again, you need to have a clear developmental plan for these guys. I think based on him being waiver exempt for one more year and being really freaking good at hockey, I think, again, hopefully it's not cart before the horse. Pelche seems like the easiest guy you could slot in your system for next year.
Well,
if you don't,
yeah, and
but like Zari,
and when you look at the contracts, like it'd be Pelche would be my number one pick easily. Like he's the guy from the 2019 draft, was it? Yes, 2019 draft.
Yeah.
The left wing, he's point per game this year, I believe. But just not just that, like just solidly impacting the game every shift. Like he's noticeably driving play on the ice against top level competition in the A. Like he's been very well. And this is like, I'm not saying right now, I just want to see him at some point. And I want to see him for a little bit of an extended stretch. And everyone might go, well, no, we're trying to win. I'm like, you're trying to also win next year as well.
And that's my thing. They've put together in their minds a team for this year that gives them the best chance to win at the NHL level. Good, fine, good. You can argue with how they've done it. And I think we will, because that's what we get paid money to do. For fun and profit. But yeah, I think they put together a group of 20-ish guys that they think they give the best chance to win this year based under the, the confines of the salary cap. But developmentally, their goal has to be to get as many of the guys from the Wranglers roster, specifically those key guys, into a situation where they can be part of a team that helps to win next year. And I think they're on their way, but I like you. I like their developmental system to a point, but I think the challenge is it's hard to evaluate it without seeing these types of guys come in at some point. You
have to see them against NHL mid-season NHL competition.
And that's like we saw Dubé progress, and you could judge Dubé's progression from the AHL and onward by seeing Dubé come in mid-season and play against guys, and with Mangiapane and so on and so forth. So.
And you're not like you're coming in, engaging them, and rolling them out every single line match them against Sidney Crosby. It's all right. We're going to put you with whether you could drop Dubé down. He's performed until the Florida game. His performance hasn't been very well.
At a certain point, you need to be able to be comfortable throwing them out there. So there's going to be a point where, as long as Crosby or McDavid's in the league, you're going to have to figure out a way to get your kids to a point where you could put Jacob Pelche out on the ice against Connor McDavid, and you're not going to pee your pants going, oh, God, this is going to go poorly.
See, I already do that whenever the fourth line's on the ice against him. Like, I already am currently doing that whenever our fourth line goes out over the boards against a player like that. So, right? Like, and that regularly happens. It's not like it's a random occurrence.
The goal for player development is to pass the pee pants test.
Yeah. Well, and Mange did that, right? Mange is lucky. He had Derek Ryan. Derek Ryan was
and Hathaway. Hathaway's a good hockey player.
I don't want to really he's a genuine NHL penalty killer extraordinaire. Right now we got Trevor Lewis, which is kind of like, I'm like, okay, well, if you want to dredge on that line, you could do that.
Trevor Lewis is what Garnet Hathaway is going to be in 10 years. 8 years, I forget how old they both are. Trevor Lewis is 36, and Hathaway, I think, is 30
or 29, something like that.
He's 30. He was UFA
because he joined us when he was like 25. So you got to remember, he joined the league late.
Yeah, but he's been in Washington for a few years.
3 years.
If only we had some sort of a magic thing that tells us how old Garnet Hathaway is. Thanks, internet. Garnet Hathaway is 31. He just turned 31. Happy birthday! Last week. Garnet Hathaway, 31 years old. Yeah, but that's the idea. You want to be able to get your guys to the point where, like, Garnet Hathaway's upside was what Garnet Hathaway is right now. So that's why if anyone is listen to this later and on Twitter going, Ryan, redeem Zohorna, are you freaking kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you, because I think
I see your logic. Here's the thing. I see your logic. I'm trying to be devil's advocate here. I'm trying to be like, all right, I want goals. And I don't. And that should be. I understand the value of the Zohorna and the Dewar on the bottom line.
I think Dewar and Zohorna would give you enough that you're probably allowing fewer goals. Maybe you're scoring more, but you're probably allowing fewer. I think the floor for those guys and the ceiling for those guys is probably both but fourth line.
Well, and like I said, I see your logic. I get it. I want more. I'm greedy. I want more. I want goals. But I get it, and I wouldn't be against. Like if that were to happen, I'd be like still a positive. There's some sort of change happening. They're doing something, and they're showing the people on the roster that the performance to date is not been where we need it to be. So we had to get someone else.
It creates a bit of competition, which I think they need, because
never a bad thing.
I'm not going to sewer Kevin Rooney, but I the way I would phrase it is I don't think Kevin Rooney has done enough to make that fourth line group competitive in terms of I don't think he's making the other three guys on that group look over their shoulder worrying about their ice time. So is there someone you could bring in to do that?
But not only has he been scratched 5 or 6 games, take another 2 out of it because he only played half of them. You know, scratched in game. So like that alone is like, okay, you're a fill-in. But and before the season started, you got to remember his career high in games played was 55. Like he's never played a full season, and we're seeing why, because it's wildly inconsistent. So
that happens.
But I mean, we kind of got off our Lucic thing, but like moral of the story to roll all the way back to Milan is he, you know, there's no dispute about his presence in the room. No one's ever debated that or discussed that, but his on ice presence has dropped, and seeing him sit and rest for a game or two would not be a bad idea.
Yeah, it's, you know, Milan Lucic, if you're listening, we don't think you're a bad hockey player. It's about maximizing your effectiveness as much as you can, so that, say, when they're playing into mid and late April, you got something in the tank and you can be a positive contributor. Shane, let's quickly go to our organic betting discussion brought to you by Betway.
You had some picks this week because I had some tests, right?
Shane had other commitments in the last 2 weeks, so we'll go through this very quickly. The loss in Tampa Bay. Shane did those picks. He won 2 out of 3. The over 5.5 total goals. They only scored 5 goals. So sorry, Shane, you didn't get the full sweep. The shootout win in Florida, he got again 2 out of 3. So much like Meatloaf,
the Matthew Tkachuk anytime goal scorer. I was like, you told me to go with your gut on one, so I did, and it was Matthew Tkachuk scoring a goal. And sure as hell, guess what happens?
Yeah. The Philadelphia win. He went 0 so poor Shane. There's no power play goals, no Toffoli points, and no Lindholm points. But the Flames won, so I guess that's the one thing. But he tacked on the Lindholm anytime point onto that.
Yeah, against the Philly roster, that Ruzicka, that was right when Ruzicka, Lindholm, Toffoli just had 2 games of like a heater,
and I was like, good times last forever, and then they didn't. Yeah. The shootout loss to Pittsburgh, 0 for 3.
It's close on all of them, though.
I did the picks in the Washington game. I got a Ovechkin anytime goal because he's Ovechkin, and more often than not, based on history, if you just bet Ovechkin anytime goal, he'll do something. That's the only one of the 3 I got.
That actually brings up organic betting thing. The first time my girlfriend ever placed a bet on Betway was a boosted thing, and it was Austin Matthews and Alex Ovechkin to score tonight. And this was last season. And she's like, is that a good idea? And I said, whatever you're thinking of betting on that, bet double. Because I was like, I'm pretty sure
the 2 best goal scorers, the most consistent goal scorers in the league. Yeah, never a bad bet. I also did the Carolina picks. I went under 5.5 goals because I figured 2 teams playing their 3rd and 4. It's going to be some sloppy hockey, not a lot of offense. I was right. I was like you. I was sweating for a little bit when it was 3-2. I'm like, please, no one else score.
No more goals.
Then Shane returned, and he got 1 out of 3 in the Florida game. I
was baffled that they didn't get anywhere close to those shots.
They got 3 off. Shane's a big fan of the shot props, so he went Huberdeau to get a point, to get an assist, and he did a really nice assist. That's why Shane's so in love with that assist, because it got his bet. He got his picks.
It's better odds. It's better odds than just the point, and it's more because they hand out 2 per goal, way more likely. So
yeah. The other one was Tkachuk 2+ points. No. And he also went Panthers 36 shots or more. They got 33.
I was not thinking halfway through the second. I'm like, yeah, that's not hitting because the shots were like 22-15, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna hit. But then I will throw out 15 minutes before game time. I realized they were wearing Blasty, and I was like, Dubé is going to score. I said that outright. I was like, there's no doubt in my mind if they put that horse jersey on, the first person to score is going to be fucking Dubé. And I laughed. I cry laughed 2:33 in when he freaking backhands that in. I'm like, of course. And then I was about to tweet. I'm like, okay, the only other people that need to score today are Anderson and Mangiapane because they're the guys I deem the Blasty bros. And sure as hit at the end of the game. I never tweeted that. I just said that to my coworkers.
Oh yeah. You have no proof that this happened. We'll take.
Hey, I've called them Blasty boys forever.
We'll take your word for it, Shane, that you called this.
I have the Dubé one in writing, so I can claim that one hands down.
All right, that's fair. We'll skip the listener mailbag this week because we decided to schedule. Yeah. We're not very organized. That's why. We'll get back into the listener mailbag next episode. Coming up this week for the Calgary Flames, they have 4 games. This week they basically play every second day. They host the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday night. They host Washington to close out that season series on Saturday night. They host the Arizona Coyotes on Monday. And for those of you going, man, let's talk about how potentially boring a hockey game could be. And this is no disrespect to the current Minnesota Wild, but a Wednesday night game in December between the Calgary Flames and the Minnesota Wild has a recipe for low event hockey because there are 2 teams that play very structured. Minnesota isn't quite at their Jacques Lemaire nadir in terms.
They're way more fun.
They're much more fun. Right, they're a fun team. So that's, I know if you're looking at like a lot of folks are going, Wednesday night against Minnesota, I don't know. It's gonna be decent.
Kirill
Minnesota's pretty
is
fun.
Legit, folks. Kirill Kaprizov is legit, and Matt Boldy scores every other game. So if you want to watch some entertaining young players, it's not the Andrew Brunette, Brian Rolston, Marian Gaborik, Minnesota Wild of the 2000s.
They're not going to be trapping is our point.
No, it's going to be fun.
We hope not. Knock on wood. That's not a guarantee. Flames Nation Radio is not liable if the Minnesota Wild Calgary Flames game ends up
if it ends 1-0 shootout win, the goalie's voodoo.
Depending on the goalies, maybe take the under in that game though.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for us. Flames Nation Radio is brought to you by DoorDash and Eau Claire Distillery. Hager's Ripper's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. Please review the podcast wherever you get it because we like reviews, and the more reviews you get, we show up in search engine results, and we want that, please. Also, please follow us along on the Flames Nation YouTube. Like, subscribe our videos, comment on the videos, and if you go and subscribe to the Flames Nation YouTube page, you can catch all our fun stuff.
Yeah,
we're gradually populating that stuff. We'll probably start migrating over to the Flames Nation page reasonably soon. So for the time being, stuff's going to be on the Nation Network page. But for those of you going, but I don't want to listen to Oilers Nation Radio, well, please stop using that tone of voice with us. I just like the falsetto voice. That's how everyone sounds in my head when they're complaining about Oilers Nation Radio. They're fine.
Just let Tyler scream into the void, folks. It's okay.
Oilers Nation Radio is fine. It's just people in Calgary don't care about the Oilers as much as the Oilers Nation people think everyone cares about the Oilers, which is a lot apparently. We'll eventually everything will be moved over there. But please, so you're in on the ground floor, please subscribe to the Flames Nation YouTube channel. It'll make Princey happy. When Princey got back from his vacation, he saw how many subscriptions we got, and his face lit up. I assume he didn't send me a photo or anything, but I'm assuming
we just presume.
We presume, but be nice to Princey. Subscribe to everything. We'll be back in a week. I believe the Flames play on a Wednesday next week. So we'll probably record. I'm thinking we'll record on Tuesday. We'll see.
Yeah, school's almost done, bud. We're good.
We'll figure it out. But there'll be another edition of Flames Nation Radio coming at you next week. So for Shane, I'm Ryan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a week.